The mistletoe margarita, the Scrooge driver, the North Pole punch. The holidays call for cocktails, so get everything you'll need for them delivered with Drizzly, the go-to app for drink delivery. So,
what's it gonna be?
Classics like Bullet Bourbon, Don Julio Reposado, or Kettle One, or maybe something new. Find it all on Drizzly, where you can get beer, wine, and spirits delivered for any holiday festivity. Download the Drizzly app or go to drizzly.com. That's DRIZLY.com today. Must be 21 plus, not available in all locations.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Potted Together podcast. I'm Nicole, and I'm joined by my two co-hosts, Adam and Becca, and then a very special guest, all the way from California, Josh Barrios. Hi.
Hello.
How you guys doing?
Good.
Welcome,
Very
Josh.
good.
Welcome to the very high-tech Potted Together podcast.
Yeah, we kind of do it big over here. We're really excited to have you on today. We told our listeners that you were going to be on, and we got some pretty excited responses. So everybody's really excited to hear from you.
Awesome.
Yeah. So let's just kind of get on into it. Why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into plants?
Well, it's been a crazy, it's been a fun ride, I guess you can say. I started houseplants specifically, like everybody else, I guess. And not everybody else, because there was a lot of people that were already in this game or in this, in this hobby before the pandemic. But I did, I was one of those that started during the pandemic. I actually started with succulents and cactus. So I kind of started since 2017 when I moved out, kind of had my own apartment. Not succulent arrangements or just stuff like that outside in the patio. No big deal, it was still kind of like, oh, we're going to go to Ace Hardware, kind of deal, Anyways, that's how it all started. And long story short, pandemic happened and I kind of moved back with my parents so I can help my grandparents because my grandpa actually needed full care. And since I have healthcare background, it just didn't make sense for me not to help him because I've helped so many other people, right? So I'm like, well, if I can help so many others, why can't I help my own family? So literally he needed like help with bathing, just all kinds of that stuff, like literally just hands-on, like physical. And my grandpa was, he was heavy. So not anybody could actually, take care of him or had the time to. So I kind of literally just stayed taking care of my grandparents. My grandma has dementia. So I would just, cook them breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and we were just kind of hang out. And of course, pandemic, in the peak of the pandemic or in the beginning, nobody was going out. Nobody was doing nothing. And I didn't want to actually do anything or go anywhere so I wouldn't, jeopardize their health. And, basically it was during March and it was kind of great weather. So what we did is we actually just spent a lot of time outside. And I had a lot of succulents already. I had actually a, pretty good selection. So we were just gardening literally, and that's what they love to do. So I kind of got that from my grandparents, the love for plants, because I would always admire them, I guess, when I was younger. Of course, I would always be on the swing that my grandpa made on a huge weeping willow, right? And there was like a hammock in between two of them. So it was just like a great memory of seeing them, water their plants or, in their garden after the long work hours that they would work. And so that kind of, long story short, during the pandemic, we were just literally planting together, just kind of, making more plants. And one of my friends actually randomly sent me a link, or she sent me a picture because she bought a coffee plant because she's just obsessed with coffee, right? So she's like, I'm going to grow my coffee, even though she didn't know that it's going to take years until it produced the coffee beans, right?
The dream
so
was
she
there.
bought a,
So
she bought a coffee plant, and I'm like, hey, I'm gonna buy it too. I don't know what got into me, so I bought the same plant she did, and at that time I was like, kind of in awe. I'm like, I didn't even know you can order plants online. If that wasn't really a thing, back then. I mean, it was, but not as much, right, as it is now. And so I bought the coffee plant, and of course, you buy something online or on Etsy or wherever, because it was actually Etsy. You buy a plant, and what happens? You start getting multiple ads for different stuff. Like, it just happens.
Yep.
So at that time, it was a string of turtles that kind of got me into all of this. So that's why string of turtles are a little bit dear to my heart, because my friend that actually sent me the coffee plant listing, she is obsessed with turtles. So I actually bought it just thinking she would like kind of like it, or you know what I mean? Or, I'm like, oh, I kind of got it for her. And long story short, she kind of started laughing at me because it was a 2-inch pot, right? It was a little thing. And she's like, how much you pay for it? I'm like, well, I paid $30 and then $10 shipping. She's like, why would you pay so much for that little plant? I'm like, because I really wanted it. And that's kind of what sparked the idea, because I'm like, well, if I wanted it, somebody else would. And literally just, from that is kind of where I got the idea. Well, I should start selling succulents or selling plants online. And it all started with my own, I guess my own little personal collection of succulents, and I was just selling cuttings because that's what really was selling back then in the beginning of COVID, just cuttings off Etsy. It wasn't anything, extravagant or, to the point where it is now.
Yeah.
I'm sure there was sellers, but it wasn't, I don't know. So I kind of started selling succulents. Literally that happened in March. So by April, May, I already had my Etsy store. I already had everything running. And, so come May, literally May, June, July, I think Ecuagenera had like a pop-up or something like that. And I just went full-blown crazy. When I get addicted to something, I just go 0 to 100 real quick. So houseplants literally came about me like
energy.
2020 in June. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of when I started getting into houseplants, started importing, doing all of that stuff. So I had zero knowledge of what the heck I was doing, literally. I was all trial and error. I was literally looking at YouTube videos nonstop. That's where I kind of found, some of you guys. And I'm like, okay. So just kind of learning, literally learning from multiple videos, just nonstop, just research and how can I take care of these plants? What happens? I'm like, there's bugs. Like what? Like, nobody really tells you all this stuff. And so, basically just plant tours is kind of what got me like, oh, I want that too. Or, so I started expanding my collection. I started, literally just getting full blown into houseplants and, one thing led to another. I started getting a, grow tent, greenhouses in the backyard kind of deal. It was full blown operation to the point where, you know what I mean? I'm like, okay, I'm taking over a little too much. And that's kind of what happened. Yeah. So
you're in the perfect climate for it. Like you have like the perfect climate to be able to have your plants outside, especially succulents and cactus.
Yeah, exactly. So I did start off with the cactus house, and then I kind of started going into the house plants until I realized that sometimes it does get a little too hot and it will fry some of the plants. And of course I wasn't aware of like, the constant airflow or like the extra shade cloths or, just like stuff like that. So there was a lot of trial and error, you guys, trust me, until eventually I invested in grow tents, right, to trap humidity. So I had literally grow tents all up inside the house. We're talking like, I think there were 20 or 10 by 10 tents. There was 2 of them inside the living room. Like, no joke. Like, it was a full-blown operation, you guys. So, but thankfully, thanks to that start, I guess, of me starting that little business is what actually helped me go to Ecuador. You know what I mean? Like, I was actually able to go to Ecuador because I was doing, I guess a good job selling, plants. And that's kind of where this all started, literally now working for Ecuagenera.
Wow. So just going back a little bit, what was like the first aroid? Because I know you started with succulents and cactus, and then you kind of went to house plants. But what was like the first aroid that like captured your heart?
The first aroid that I guess I was actually able to successfully import was crystallinium. Anthurium crystallinium was one of the first one that I ordered in bulk. With that came with variegated Peasley Picasso, I believe it was. And I ordered, I think, a couple Clarinervium as well. So those are the 3 that I actually remember actually being excited. Oh, I got these from Thailand or Indonesia. I can't even remember now, you guys. There's been so much importing going on. But that's what I remember, because I remembered like, oh, spring 2021 is going to be great, blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? Because I have, imports. And at the time, literally, we're talking like August of 2020. There wasn't as much saturation in the market as there is now. Like it's just been full blown on crazy now. But at that time, there really wasn't much competition, literally, besides your big names that were already in the market, in the industry before any of us got into it. Well, me being like a small shop, I guess, right? So, that's kind of how it started. And actually, I kind of met the company through a YouTube video of an unboxing video, right? So I kind of found out about Ecuagenera through an unboxing video. I'm like, okay, I'm going to start ordering from them. So I placed big order. And of course, 0 to 100. My parents actually were really amazing, and they actually helped me. They gave me a loan, I guess you can say, which is not, something. I was basically blessed with that availability that, I was able to just buy all kinds of plants and then just sell and then pay them back as, whenever I could. So that honestly helped me, kind of get to the point where I'm like, okay, I'm full blown on seller. Of course, I'm a reseller. That's fine. But I was rehabbing plants and, just kind of learning literally as much as I could, because these things were not cheap back then. I mean, you know what I mean? They were expensive. And even from the actual vendors like Ecuagenera, they were still full blown expensive. I mean, I remember when a luxuriance was $400. You know what I mean? And that was still being resold for $800. You know what I mean? So I mean, it's just, so I learned a lot, and I definitely lost a lot, you know what I mean? But it was all trial and error, and so thankfully to all of that is, I was able to be here, and that's a whole different story, but it's been great. Yeah.
That's awesome. So you're the manager at the California Ecuagenera, right?
Correct.
So how did you said you went to Ecuador. How did you meet the owners?
So I actually went, and it's funny because I actually was a little bit hesitant to even say anything or where I was going, right? Because if you put it on social media, or for example, I had a decent following on Instagram, so people, of course, are going to be, I guess, curious. Let's use that word. Curious as far as where you're going or where you're buying from. You know what I mean? And so I was kind of hesitant. I even told a couple other people, I'm like actual close friends, I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to even say where I'm going or who I'm visiting, because I don't want to lose my customers. You know what I mean? Because I was still super still selling. So it's like, a lot of people don't reveal where they buy plants from, or, it's actually a really taboo subject, even if asking other vendors, like where you buy your plants, like it was just weird during that time. Like people just didn't want to say, and I totally understand from a seller's point of view, you know what I mean? They don't want to give the resources up. So that's the same situation that I was in. Long story short, I was actually originally supposed to go to Thailand. That was the original plan. And 2 weeks before my flight, Thailand closed down again for the second wave of COVID, which was the new variant. I can't remember. Yeah. And basically, literally 2 weeks before, I'm like, well, shoot, what am I going to do? I already have time off work because I was still working at the hospital. I'm like, I already have time off work. I already have my flight booked. Like, I already have my tour guide. I already have my hotel. Everything was already taken care of. And thankfully, I was able to get everything refunded. Because, it closed down. So, of course, everything, was refunded correctly. And long story short, there was an event in San Jose where Ecuagenera was going to be. And I had remembered a year before, the vice president, which is Ivan Portilla, he had mentioned something like, if you guys want to go to Ecuador, we'll give you guys a free trip, talking to me and my mom, because we purchased so much plants. So it was just like, we'll give you guys a free tour if, you guys go to Ecuador, this, and that. So I kind of remember that from the back of my head, and it just so happened, just destiny, I guess. He happened to be there that weekend that it all happened, where Thailand closed down. And I literally took off to San Jose just to go talk to him to see if they're even still offering tours because of COVID and all of that stuff. And long story short, he said, he gave me his business card, told me to send him an email. And he literally replied that night and contacted me with the right person as far as the tours. And long story short, 2 weeks later, I literally just told him I'm going to go this, and this date, and they took care of everything. Of course, I had to put a deposit, all of that fun stuff, because I was going for like 14 days. And so anyways, that kind of happened, and I had no intention of none of this happening. Literally, I didn't even have planned to go to Ecuador, literally, but I truly feel like it was destiny, because it was just super random. Like the first 3 days I was with the tour guide, and we did like non-plant related stuff. We literally went to go look around some cities in Ecuador, like bigger cities, and kind of did some touristy stuff. Nothing plant related. Come that Monday, because I left a Thursday, that Monday morning I had breakfast with the owners of Ecuagenera, all of the family, because this is actually a family ran business. There's no outsiders, like nobody at all. It's all family owned. Family ran. There's a nursery in Florida that's been open for 4 years, and a lot of people don't know, but we're in Europe as well. We have a nursery in Germany, so we're kind of expanding, and we had a really awesome conversation with everybody. And basically, the owner of Ecuagenera offered me plants on credit, and I kind of told him, I don't want to owe you money. Like, let's be realistic. Like, plants die. Like, I just don't want to owe you that. You know what I mean? So I just kind of random, but I'm like, but if you ever decide to open up something in California, you let me know, and I will be more than happy to work for you. And no joke, like after that comment, I guess you can say, it's like a light bulb kind of went off, in his head, which is, kind of great. And he kind of asked, like, well, what's your itinerary for the rest of the week? And I'm like, well, I have this, and this plan. He's like, no, don't worry about it. Just go ahead and go pack your bags and, meet me in an hour, basically, literally. And so what we did is that night we took off to a different part of Ecuador where the Amazon basin, where they grow all of their plants. So a little bit of explanation of that. The Amazon basin, they actually have a property. So per se, they have, I don't know how big it is, but we're talking huge. And they basically, that's where they grow all of their plants. So whenever you see pictures at the actual like Instagram for Ecuagenera_Audacia, the main one, and they say, oh, it's in our garden. It literally is their garden. So it's just like, for example, you buy a 250 acre property and you plant all of these gloriosums or whatever, there. And the weather's just so beautifully, and they grow all year long. So they have full mature specimens on their property that they've actually been, cultivating, growing. We'll get more into all of that fun stuff. But I kind of fell in love with this company, just seeing how the owners are. The owners are super humble. They're super amazing people. They're the kind of people that you wouldn't even think that had money, right? They're just super, super generous. I mean, they're just really awesome people. Of course, they're business people, right? So, it's been a great experience. I kind of went to Ecuador not expecting a thing, literally kind of trying to be secretive of where I was. I didn't even mention in the beginning that I was with Ecuagenera until I kind of realized, like, it was literally a couple days into that I was kind of already offered the job. And so I kind of was already like, okay, I'm here. And even people were commenting, like, why are you revealing your sources? Other vendors as well, because, everybody was reselling. And like, well, why are you saying, like, where are you buying from? And basically my response to that was just like, well, I couldn't tell them then that I was working for the company, because I wasn't officially working for the company. It was just all talk. And so, but I already kind of knew that this was going to happen, talking to the owner and, the ideas that were being thrown around. And so I went to Ecuador. I had a really great time with everybody there. I mean, it was just super awesome. It's like a huge family. And I fell in love with it. It's just super gorgeous out there. It's just out of this world. Like, it's that level of plants that, just truly brings you that happiness of, being around nature, being around a company that actually is doing great things for conservation. Like, there's so much stuff that doesn't get told, or that's so much stuff that flies under the radar. But, it truly is amazing, and that's why I fell in love with this company and why I decided to embark into this journey, I guess you can say.
Okay, so when we first met you at Ecuagenera, you pronounced Ecuagenera correctly. However, that's the first time I think any of us had ever heard it pronounced that way. So do you want to explain? Because I always called it Ecuagenera, but do you want to explain?
So I guess
name?
Our American name is Ecuagenera, right? That's our American name, but it is Ecuagenera. That is how it's pronounced, Ecuagenera, which actually means Equa for Ecuador, and Genera for genius. So basically, like, plants of Ecuador, right? That's kind of what the name stands for.
I
Yeah.
love that.
Now I can't pronounce it any other way.
I know.
Ecuagenera.
Ecuagenera.
Yeah.
I know after we met with you in California, we left and we went back to the Airbnb and we were all just like, Ecuagenera. We were like practicing saying it.
I love it. No, it's so funny because people actually have said like, oh, I thought it was Ecuagenera. And I'm like, no, that's just our American name. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But no, it is truly, it's Ecuagenera. Yeah.
I still can't picture like a field of gloriosum. Like when you say that, it just sounds so magical.
You guys, I mean, we're talking gloriosums. They're at least 4 or 5 feet. I mean, big, just the leaf, the foliage, you know what I mean? So Ecuagenera actually has, they're growing, they have so much production that they have built these beautiful beds. Basically picture a raised bed of, where you grow tomatoes or whatever, but they actually just have like gloriosum, or they'll have a bed of warocqueanum, or they'll have a bed of, anything literally that you can think of. And it's just epic because they're just growing so big and beautiful on their property, and it's just super amazing. So Ecuagenera is truly trying to focus more on tourism to bring people out there, because anybody can go experience, the same feeling that I did. So, it's been great. Yeah.
Do you have like photos of these raised beds or anything that you can share with us?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, we'll have some visuals on our Instagram feed if you guys want to check those out, because I am just imagining this like in my garden. I'm like, what would that even be like to have?
No, definitely. Yes. I mean, a lot of the pictures actually that I have posted on my Instagram, a lot of them are from mature specimens on their property. You know what I mean? That they planted from seeds. And so it's actually really epic just being out there and experiencing that firsthand.
And now you run the Ecuagenera California Instagram page, right? But you also have another Instagram page. What is that? Do you want to say what that is?
Yes. So my personal account is California Aeroids. That's kind of just where I do more publicity for Ecuagenera because that's pretty much, what it is. Yeah.
Your personal account is also where I think you had highlight reels of your trips to Ecuador.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, pretty much everything that I did out there. I mean, it was pretty good. I have a lot of YouTube videos that I have not had time to edit, but there's so much footage that I have that it's just, it's truly awesome.
Oh gosh, I can imagine.
Yeah,
so
maybe
cool.
we'll help you edit those.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
that'd be great.
Upload it to the drive. Like we want to see it.
We want to see it.
Of course.
So after you left Ecuador, how long was it before the owners decided to open up that California location?
It was pretty much like instant.
Wow.
I mean,
what a shift. Like what a curve in your life.
Literally. I mean, yeah, I was sitting at the airport in Miami and I get a phone call and basically saying, "Hey, I have a property for you to go look at." And so that's kind of how fast it was, you guys. It's been an amazing ride. Yeah.
That is incredible. And like, I think that says a lot about who you are, that they just so immediately trusted you for good reason. You've done such an amazing job and your love of plants like truly like seeps out of your pores. And I just think that's so cool. And that, I don't know, yeah, again, it just says a lot about who you are that they immediately were like, yeah, this is our guy.
It's been great. It's been great. It's been great. I mean, it's been a much needed change, I guess you can say. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, like you said, it's kind of like destiny,
Yeah.
You're where you're supposed to be. So can you share any future plans that Ecuagenera might have? Any new locations?
Right.
Any secrets?
Well, there's not much I can actually say about the company because we do try to kind of keep a little bit of, mystery, right? But
yes,
there is
Josh
plans.
Isn't spilling any tea.
There is plans for sure to open up more locations in the future, right? Of course, the priority is to expand the company as much as we can, Ecuagenera right now owns about over 6,000 acres of primary forest, and for the sole purpose of conservation. They pay people out of pocket basically to take care of these lands, to protect them basically, so that makes sure that nobody goes in. A lot of the time, Ecuador is used more for gosh, how do I explain it? To subtract natural resources, right? Oil is huge in Ecuador, right? Or gold, right? So a lot of people mine for gold. And what happens in that process is that, a lot of plants get depleted, a lot of land gets depleted. And not just that, but they contaminate water, right? In the process of mining for gold. Sometimes these water resources are actually people's main source of water, literally. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like California or United States where everything is filtered, you know what I mean? Like sometimes these are native people's actual primary source of water. So in the process of them illegally mining for gold, because there is some areas in Ecuador where you can legally mine for gold, there's still a lot of illegal, stuff like that going on. So in the process, it does affect a lot of people. It affects not only plants and nature, but it affects people, and the livelihoods of the situation. So Ecuagenera is truly trying to conserve as much land as it can, you know what I mean? Because if you actually go to Ecuador and see this firsthand, you'll see it truly untouched. You'll see it beautiful. You'll see full blown on specimens, and this is all Ecuagenera's property. So let me tell you a little bit about that. You and I, or anybody, can go to Ecuador and buy land, and Ecuador is super lush and beautiful. So of course you might find, a property filled with 100,000 gloriosum. I don't know, or passasanum. It's just that possibility because that's how these plants grow. So, for example, if I go to Ecuador and I buy 5 acres, just say, and I can do whatever the heck I want with it because it is my property, right? So a lot of the time people are just cutting down trees or whatever just to make pasture for cattle because, cattle is a huge, source of food, right? So literally they're just taking down trees or whatever just so they can grow grass for their cows or stuff like that, or like I mentioned, for illegal things like illegal gold mining or whatever for cutting down trees to have more wood, you know what I mean, that kind of stuff, for lumber, all of that stuff. So that being said, I can go to Ecuador, buy property, and do whatever the heck I want with it. So the fact that Ecuagenera is literally buying property just to keep it in conservation, just to keep it beautiful, they're actually reintroducing species that, are no longer there for whatever reason, you know what I mean? Reintroducing those native species and making Ecuador beautiful again. Planting trees, I mean, who does that? And we're not talking a little bit of trees, we're talking hundreds of thousands of trees, just to make it beautiful again, right? Just to take care of the lungs of the earth, right? Because I mean, we see it all the time, deforestation is a huge thing. So Ecuagenera's primary focus is to keep Ecuador as beautiful as it was, or as it is.
That's a big question that I had for you when we met. Was we walked into the greenhouse there in California, and it is just full of all of, it was like eye candy for the plant person.
Gosh,
it was,
yes.
I've
It
never
was so
seen
dreamy.
anything like that. Yeah, never in my life. And I've been to a lot of plant places, amazing plant places, but nothing like that. So my first thought, unfortunately, I was like, is this ethical? Like, how is this even possible?
Yeah, no, of course.
So yeah, like if I've had that question, surely other people have. And that was one of the things we wanted to talk about. So like, how exactly are they able to like basically mass produce these rare plants? Well, let's say commercially rare.
I totally understand. And, I understand that controversy completely. So we also have to realize and understand that Ecuagenera has been in business for 30 years. And long story short, it's not like something that just happened in the middle of a pandemic. Let's put it this way. I feel like the company that everybody knows is always going to be the one that gets the fault for everything, right? So not a lot of people know, but there's a lot of other companies that have, as well started, in Ecuador, and that kind of put bad name, for us because we're the main one, right? We're the one that everybody knows. And so I don't know how they do it, and I'm not going to judge or comment on their techniques, but Ecuagenera has, been cultivating plants for the past 30 years, legally, right? Ecuagenera is the first company in Ecuador that has legally obtained sites, which is actually a legal document basically that says that we can harvest seeds, that we can reproduce these plants to be able to reintroduce them into nature, right? We're able to identify plants legally, right? There's a team, the whole team that does that, right? That actually names plants. So that's why sometimes some plants are renamed, randomly, because it does take it's a process, right, to identify the plant and get the name right and all of that stuff. So Ecuagenera, of course, during the pandemic, there was a lot of tissue culture, right, being done, right? And let's be real, all plants now, you go to Home Depot, all the plants are tissue culture. I know there's a lot of controversy, but that's basically how they were able to maintain with the demand. Now, of course, we have, there's a lot of mother plants that they own, that they do seeds. So we're focusing more on seeds in the future. But of course, that's how we were able to produce the plants for the craze of the pandemic. Yeah. And honestly, tissue culture is a great way for conservation, right? Because, people want a plant, right? We understand that. But it's not ethical, like you guys say, to fully take from, nature. And like I mentioned, if you wanted to, you totally can, because it's their property, right? There's no saying that they can't. There's no saying, no, legally, everything is being done legally, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So there's no foul play. There's no there's poaching. No, you guys, at the end of the day, it's all been done legally. The first company in Ecuador that actually has the rights to do so. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. I had no idea they were around for 30 years.
Yeah.
When you told us that originally, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a long
I,
time.
of course, have only been in this for the last year, right? Because there's not a lot of people that are just literally giving up their own profits to sustain these beautiful lands. You know what I mean? And that's why I want to bring awareness to everybody, right? And, basically so that people can know that your plant purchase is actually going to a greater benefit or a greater good than we can even think of. Because a lot of the time it's they're just doing this to make money. And it's no, at the end of the day, it's for the sole purpose of conservation, to make sure that Ecuador stays beautiful. I mean, there's so much more behind it, right? So we are, a company focused on primarily taking care of the flora of Ecuador, right? Because that's where the company's based from. So of course there's other countries that have beautiful flora, the rainforest, is being depleted as well. But for me, it was I got sent to Ecuador, right? Life sent me there, you know what I mean? It was, so I can't talk for the other people, but, I know that Ecuador is doing great. So, I mean, Ecuagenera. So that's why I primarily want to focus on making sure that their dreams and, everything that they envision comes true.
Yeah. They're lucky to have you out there.
They are someone that aligns with their vision and is so passionate about it. So I guess I'm curious, when you were going to Thailand, you were going just to source other vendors in Thailand.
Correct.
Because Ecuagenera is not in. They don't. Do they have a spot in Thailand?
No, we don't. No.
First.
So I was. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna tell you, it's my first ever import order was from Thailand. That was back in 2018. And I still have those plants. So, hey,
really?
Look at us go.
Well, I'm kind of curious. What kind of plants are those?
I bought a Thai constellation, which is huge now. ZZ Raven, because those were not here on the market.
Yeah, wow.
And a white wizard.
Wow.
Yeah.
And they're big.
Yeah.
They're hardy plants.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome. Yeah. The original plan was to go okay. So I already knew about Ecuagenera, and I actually had purchased a lot from Ecuagenera. We're talking a lot,
Yeah.
And so it's actually fairly easy, FYI anybody. It's super easy to order from Ecuador. They take care of the phytosanitary for you. They take care of everything for you. Literally, you just order online and you get it shipped, right away, kind of deal. It's super easy to order from Ecuador. Literally, I mean, at least from Ecuagenera, it's super easy. So for me, it's okay, well, I already know what they have, right? I already see their plants. I have a lot of their plants. For me, it was more going to Thailand to purchase plants that were not really here, or that were not easily as accessible as far as variegated plants, or we're talking super rare collector plants. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I was ready to go spend money. You know what I mean? And basically, life was nope, you're gonna go to Ecuador instead, and that's literally what happened. And obviously, here's the reason why, right?
Okay. Sure. Question. So with your plans, I'm curious about this as just a person. How were you planning on bringing plants back from Thailand? Were you going to just pick them out and they were going to send them to you? Or were you planning on obtaining a phytosanitary certificate yourself and bringing them back? What was your plan?
So I actually was going to Thailand for 2 weeks, and that was a plan. So I already had a tour guide or a translator. Basically was to go to nurseries, find plants, but I also had to find people that were able to get the phytosanitary, right? Paperwork, all of that in order. So I literally was going for 2 weeks to make sure that I had enough time to do all of this, because it's a process. Like I had to go buy plants for a week, and then it takes at least, a week to get the phytos, all of that stuff. And that's basically what I was going for. I had no idea what I was going to go do, but that was my plan, was to go look for plants, find a person that was able to export, and, be able to have the plants here. So that was a whole entire plan. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so interesting. I can just imagine like the adventure that would feel like. I mean, it's like a wild vacation, and you're like hunting for plants, and you got to figure out how to get them home. Like that's a adventure story for sure.
Yeah,
Yes.
Exactly. It was going to be a lot of trial and error, that's for sure. So, thankfully, like maybe, who knows? Maybe it wouldn't have been successful. And that's why life's like, nope, you're going to go to Ecuador instead.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I don't know, but it was just a super random, like, oh yeah, Thailand is closing. I'm like, okay, well, here's the thing. I could have gone to Thailand, but I would have had to be quarantined on Phuket, which is a separate island in Thailand, for a week. And then I could go to Bangkok, where all of the main plant shops that I wanted to go to were. And I was like, well, it doesn't make sense because I'm going to go by myself, literally. Like there's, I'm not going to go with a friend. So like, what am I going to do on basically it was like a honeymoon kind of island. You know what I mean? It was like something where you go enjoy with friends or with a partner. I'm like, what am I going to go do? Twiddle my thumbs like by myself? Like, no, like, so basically I'm like, yeah, it doesn't make sense because I'm only going to have 6 days to be in the cities. I'm not going to have enough time. Like it just didn't make sense to me. So, that's kind of, everything changed. Literally everything changed. Yeah.
Thailand missed out.
Yeah. And here we are.
I am a serial hobbyist. Well, at least that's what I call myself. Before I really got into houseplants, I bounced around from hobby to hobby. Sometimes I invested a lot, and I mean a lot of time and money into these hobbies. The thing that no one really ever talks about when you take a hobby from being just a hobby into a business is how much of your time is spent on the business side of things. And that's where Mod Ventures comes in. Mod Ventures works with business owners and entrepreneurs across the country to organize, predict, and create your financial futures. If you're interested in reducing your stress come tax season, look no further than Mod Ventures. They have a completely virtual and streamlined tax system. All engagement letters, tax organizers, and tax return deliveries are done online through a safe client portal. And since this infrastructure is in place, you can really do anything from anywhere across the country. You can find more information about Mod Ventures in the show notes and also on their website, www.modventuresllc.com. This year, self-care can look like giving your tax stress away to a professional and letting your passion for your hobby flourish. Ecuador sounds, seriously, a dream to go there. And you've made it even sound better. But what was like your least favorite thing? Because you mentioned some snakes when we were together, and I can't get that out of my head. Like, I just can't.
Well, the snake was kind of like I guess, yeah, you have to be, you have to, yeah, keep that in mind. You're going into the jungle, like, sometimes. So granted, if you don't want to go into the jungle, there's so much to do on their properties. Like, just go to all of their nurseries, like all of their greenhouses. Like, there's so much to do, literally. So if you're not into the hiking, or if you're not into the, going on adventures, I guess you can say, and the potential of, yes, there are snakes in Ecuador, but, you're fine for the most part. Honestly, like, I didn't have a problem. You know what I mean? Like, honestly, yeah, there's so much to do, literally so much to do in Ecuador. They have nurseries in Guayaquil, in Gualaceo. That's their headquarters. It's the main place. It's a little bit cooler climate, so they actually grow a lot of their orchids there. A lot of cooler. There's actually anthuriums that do like cold, so that's why sometimes people don't do successful with their plants. And that's what the kind of videos I want to do in the future is, like, okay, these plants are grown in this kind of climates or something. Because I feel like a general rule of thumb is you put all your aeroids in the same grow tent or same conditions. It's like, no, like some of these plants are actually found in different elevations or different climates. They're more wet or they're more dry. So, it just depends. Like, there's actually a lot of anthurium and philodendron that can withstand or that can tolerate way cooler weathers. Like we're talking dropping to the 40s, you know what I mean? And, you know, sometimes they actually thrive better in that condition. So sometimes we have like, you know, upset plants are like, well, what am I not doing right? And it's like, well, at the same time, it's like, because there's not really much, you know, out there saying like, hey, this plant is this, or this plant likes this kind of conditions. So that's kind of what I want to do in the future when I have more time. Of course, I'm starting the business here, so it's just been full on nonstop work, but, you know, just to kind of, you know, help people out, right? Kind of make videos like, hey, this is how you take care of this plant, or, you know, how can you be successful with rehabbing plants, right? Of course, what we want to do here is eliminate that process, is eliminate the customer having to rehab their own plants. But of course, you know, there's still those people that like a little bit cheaper plants, right? And that are fully capable of rehabbing their own plants. And, you know, of course, we're going to provide that still, right? Because, you know, when you get imported plants, I mean, not just Ecuador, but any plants in general, whenever you get any import plants, they, you know, sometimes the roots are the ones that get affected the most. And, you know, so that's kind of what I want to focus on, of course, is, you know, you're buying an investment. So I want to make sure that, you know, we're able to help you guys take care of that investment.
I think that those videos that you're talking about doing about, you know, acclimating specific plants to different climates would be a great tool for everyone in the YouTube community. Because you think of Anthurium, you think of Philodendron, all aroids pretty much. And even you can go into some conservatories, like where I'm at, there's the Garfield Park Conservatory, and in other states there's conservatories, and they're all in this just hugely humid, hot climate. And that doesn't necessarily need to be the case in your home for some plants. That could be interesting.
Exactly. And that's kind of why I mean, California is dry as heck, you guys. It's super dry. It's not the same as Florida, right? Where it's super hot and humid and beautiful weather for plants. California is dry. So I feel like we kind of have that little bit right now, you know, where the plants are acclimating to an environment where people take them home, you know, they'll be much more stable, right? They won't take much effect. Like I actually just brought in a couple of Anthurium and plants just inside the house, and they're just doing beautifully, right? Because I feel like they can tolerate that right now because they're being grown in that kind of environment.
Well, I will say the plants that I got from you, because I live in Phoenix, so I live in a dry ass desert. They all adjusted really well. Even the ones that you were like, I would not sell that to anybody, but since you're here and you can see them, like the newly imported ones, that they're just thriving. No, they look so good. I'm so excited about them too.
That's good.
And Becca's are doing amazing too. Like I just saw you post on Instagram. They both of your two plants have new huge leaves.
The Baciae luxurians that you were like, you have to take this home. The new leaf is huge. Like the new leaf that it was putting out, like while we were talking, it's grown like probably like triple that size, and I thought it was done.
Wow, that's awesome. Is it super dark? That one's a beautiful hybrid.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's what
really,
I love
really
about
dark.
Ecuagenera is that they're always trying to do something new. They're always trying to, you know, create their own, right? And, you know, hybrids is going to be the next big thing, literally. Anthurium hybrids is where it's going to be at for sure. And there's so many different varieties. I can't really talk about the varieties that are coming out, but you guys, there's some pretty epic ones. I mean, they of course keep the best specimens, right? So that they can reproduce those best specimens. But yeah, you guys, there's so much great stuff coming to the market that people don't even know that they want yet, but they're gonna want. You know what I mean?
Well, that's how I felt when I walked in. Like I thought that I was gonna come in and get some sort of like clarinervium, and that was it. I was like, oh yeah, that's what I've seen.
Becca with the basic plants. No, I'm just kidding.
No, wait, like compared to like the plants that were in there, that was the basic plant, which was so weird.
Of course. And you know what? It still sells really well, actually. Clarinervium still sells really well.
I got one.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Well, I do have a question. One of the plants that I took home, it's like the T-shaped one, like the Tesla logo, the Falcatum, I think.
The one that you got was the Tesla one? You got a Draconoperum, the one that I said that looked like a Tesla?
Okay, I got that one, and then I got another one.
Oh, you got the Fulcatum? Okay.
Yeah, but it says Ecuagenera at the end of it. So is that a variety that they like found?
Correct.
So okay, can you explain that? Because some of the names they have Ecuagenera at the end of it, and I just like, what is that? What's going on?
I know. Well, Ecuagenera has they have that power, that authority to name plants, right?
Yeah.
Because, they actually can. So a lot of the time they'll name them after, people or, family or, but yeah, usually Ecuagenera is kind of something that they found, right? Of course,
Okay.
like new species, then basically how that process is, it's a little confusing because they're like, well, you guys still take, and it's like, no. So Ecuagenera, like I mentioned, they own over 6,000 acres. You guys, this is a lot of land, right? In different parts of Ecuador. So of course, different parts of Ecuador, different climates, different altitudes, different plants. So basically, they are able to harvest the seeds. They don't ever take a mother plant from their actual place. They harvest the seeds to be able to reproduce, also to get them identified, right? Because that's literally what they've been doing for the last 30 years. And, that's why they're legally able to do so, because they actually are discovering the flora of Ecuador. That's literally the whole purpose of the company. And that's why it was started.
So for plants to be recognized, they have to be published. So is Ecuagenera, they're doing publications of these ones that
Correct.
are out there?
Yeah, as far as the orchids, I know that they have to go like through the American Orchid Society and through England, I believe. So it's a whole process. I'm pretty sure
Kew
the same
Gardens,
process.
probably.
Yeah, the same process runs for aroids. Yeah, I just don't know specifically what the process is, but I mean, as far as the orchids, because that's where the company started, so I was reading a little bit.
Yeah.
And yeah, my like job description kind of like came with like a whole history of the company.
That's cool.
I read a little bit. You know what I mean?
I'm sure it's a lot.
Oh, you guys have no idea. But it's great. It's great. I mean, I wouldn't change it for the world. It's been stressful as heck. I can tell you that. Literally. I mean, starting a business in California from zero is not easy at all. But
No.
Yeah.
you guys, it's going to be so rewarding because I know I'm going to bring so much joy and happiness to other people. And at the end of the day, we're overall working on something much more bigger than all of us, what I
Yeah.
mean? So
Yeah.
that is the primary focus, to just making sure that, we're doing everything correctly and ethically and, just, literally for something bigger than that we can all think. And you might say, oh, well, my one little plant might not make a difference. I'm like, yeah, your one little plant does make a difference. Yeah, just to keep moving forward in something that, is literally being depleted with or without us. You know what I mean? Like poaching goes so much more beyond than just taking plants from nature. I mean, people are literally destroying just nature. They're literally destroying nature, and you can full blown on see it in Ecuador. You know what I mean? Like you just go and you'll just see literally just I mean, I understand that they have to make farmland, or you know what I mean? Like they're taking down trees or whatever to make houses. I totally understand. But at the same time, Ecuagenera is truly, 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 genuinely doing something to be able to maintain those that property. Of course, there's you think about it in the long picture, like 6,000 acres, over 6,000 is not a lot, right? But it's a start, right? And that's what we're trying to do, is trying to expand the company to make it a much better place. And we're trying to do whatever we can, because not a lot of companies are doing literally this. If anything, they're taking from nature, natural resources or whatever, just for the sole purpose of their well-being, right? Nobody else's but the main people, right? So yeah, it's a rough situation, but at the end of the day, I know that genuinely Ecuagenera is doing the best they can. And of course, sometimes they get thrown under the bus, right? We get accusations all the time, but at the same time, people have to realize that sometimes being the main face or the biggest company is a reason why everybody thinks us, right? Us. But so many people don't know there's so many other little companies that have started in the peak of pandemic. Why? Because they knew how to make money. They knew, it's so easy to do so. And they're literally growing like weeds in Ecuador. You know what I mean? Plants are being grown in like weeds, or not even that. I mean, Indonesia or Thailand or wherever, you know what I mean? Like, but Ecuagenera takes the big hit. Why? Because we're the main face. We're on everything. We're on YouTube. We're everywhere. You know what I mean? So of course, and of course, a lot of it comes with envy and greed, of other companies or whatever that start, accusations. But at the end of the day, if anybody has any kind of doubts, I mean, just go to Ecuador. You know what I mean? No one's telling you to stop, or nobody's telling you not to go. You know what I mean? You can go see the
you're
production.
inviting
You can go
people,
see, yeah. You can go see the production. You can go see literally their true efforts of conservation firsthand, so that, you know, your doubts can be, I guess, you know what I mean? So that you're not having those doubts, right? No one's stopping anybody from going. Literally, if anything, we're inviting, like you said, we're inviting people because we want to take people so that they can see what we're truly trying to do for conservation.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right.
Should we do the listener questions?
Yes.
Oh,
that's
man.
what I was going to ask if you guys had any other questions. Are you ready, Josh? People want to know some things.
I didn't put anything like only the tame ones. We're not going to put you through the relationship questions, so don't worry. Unless you want to spill some tea, but no.
Right? No, it's okay. It happens. I mean, trust me. I mean, plants and people, you know what I mean? I love it.
They get curious.
Yeah, of course. I totally get it. Yeah. So let's start. Yeah.
Okay. How do you like your coffee?
How do I like my coffee?
Do you drink coffee?
Yeah, I drink coffee when I'm super tired. Usually sugar. I'll maybe put some creamer. You know what I mean? But,
okay.
Yeah.
He's a simple man. Okay. What's one plant that you've lost that you really miss? And this might be a tricky question because I feel like you can easily get your hands on like another plant that you may have lost.
You know which one I kind of, when I was at the end, or I guess when I was moving just to Southern California, I was selling a lot of my plants, or I try to sell the mass variety or the mass of my collection. So there was some plants that, of course, it was still kind of really expensive back then. So I'm kind of a little bit happy that I did sell them, but I do miss certain plants. There's one in particular, and it's super random, but a Florida ghost, a mint Florida ghost that I had. And there's controversy that there's no such thing as mint or whatever. But mine was super gorgeous. And I actually sold a cutting to Jake Plant Guy, I believe, on Instagram. I sold him one, and he has one, and he showed me the other day. I'm like, bro, like, I need you to give me a cutting of my plant back. No, but there, I think what happened is I sold everything. I sold him the top cutting, and I sold like all of the nodes, and the ones that I ended up keeping, I just think that they either got lost or they died or something, and I just, because I don't have that plant. But yeah, pretty much. I remember that one specifically just because it was super gorgeous. I mean, his specimen is super pretty. And I'm like, okay. But that one was an import from Thailand.
That dude can grow friggin' plants.
Yeah, definitely.
Dang.
And he even said, he even made a comment like, what, you don't have it anymore? And I'm like, yeah, bro, like, it's gone. It's gone.
I'm going to need it back. Thanks.
Jake, give him a cutting, Jake. Come on.
Yeah, seriously. Nah, it's actually really pretty. I wouldn't want him to cut it.
I'm sure you could work out like a pretty nice trade, you know, make it worth his while.
Right.
See, that is the struggle with aeroids. And we've talked about this on this podcast a lot because I'm a Hoya boy. So like Hoya are so easy to propagate and they don't ruin the structure of the plant. But if you have this gorgeous aeroid and you propagate it, it's just it kind of like screws up the structure of the whole plant.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I totally get it.
Yeah. Makes it look weird.
Sad.
But that's how I justify like not cutting my plants and sharing them because I do it so rarely. And I'm like, well, you know, it's going to make it look like the plant will never be the same after I cut it.
No,
like,
I get it. And and that's exactly, you know, because I actually stopped selling plants, right? I don't sell personal plants or anything like that. And I've had people be like, oh, can you sell me a cutting or of my personal collection? Because my personal collection is sitting in the greenhouse, right? You know, like with all the rest of the plant. And then I'm like, no, you can't, you know, I'm sorry, I can't. And, you know, it's not ethical, right? I can't be selling on the side, right? Because, you know, I gave that up basically when I accepted that disposition, right? And but yeah, I actually get to enjoy my plants mature. Like I actually have an album monstera with 6-7 leaves, you guys. That was never the case.
Beautiful.
I would always cut them. Why? Because I would sell the cuttings for, you know, whatever they were going
Yeah.
for at the time. And I never was able to have mature specimens. I did have like an Epipremnum pinnatum that was super beautiful, variegated, that was growing up a pole, super gorgeous. And of course, I was able to keep that one because, they grow like weeds. So I was able to keep one piece for me. But you guys, like, I was never able to actually have mature specimens because I would always just sell whatever I had. And, I was in the peak business of literally just selling. And,
Yeah. Also in like plants, we need to like re-normalize the social faux pas that is like asking to buy someone's stuff if they're not offering. Like,
definitely.
I've been getting messages lately, and not to toot my horn here, but they're like, "Oh, I'm local. Like, do you sell?" I'm like, no, nowhere on my page do I say that. So I'm sure like it's probably awkward when people are like, oh, like, will you sell me the cutting of this? Like from your collection, it's like not for sale. It's roped off. You got to sign. Like, let's normalize not doing that. Like, don't ask people.
I totally understand. I mean, there's one specifically that people always ask me for, and it's a variegated sea hibiscus, right? It's sitting on my table. It's really pretty. It's just variegated sea hibiscus. I don't know why, but everybody always asks me, "Oh, you don't have any? Can you give me a cutting or stuff like that?" And it's like, no, you guys, like, I actually want to see it, like, grow beautifully.
Grow.
You know what I mean? And the actual plan for the property here, in California, is one day I want to see it into a botanical garden. You know what I mean? Like, I want to have something super beautiful. So, you know what I mean? Like, it wouldn't make sense for me to propagate the plants that I specifically own, to sell, because at the end of the day, I'm not going to get none of those profits, right? So for me, it's like, I'd rather just plant it outside and enjoy it, or everybody enjoy it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If the company wants to buy some cuttings or whatever, like, hey, that's on them. But like, as far as it goes, like, I'm just gonna, I literally before I moved here, I bought some trees, like variegated lemon trees, or just variegated. I love trees. I love variegated trees. So I bought a lot of basically stuff like that, so I can plant here, because I genuinely want to have a botanic garden here. So, I get to enjoy it. I get to enjoy it for years to come.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have any tips for like beginner imports, people that are wanting to import plants for the first time? Any tips and tricks?
Well, make sure that you guys find a good seller, because I've actually had situations where, you buy, let's just say Etsy or wherever you're going to buy from, and the plants don't show up, or the accounts get disappeared, or, stuff like that. So just make sure you have a good, reliable seller. Just do all kinds of investigating. Make sure, that they're not duplicate pictures of somebody else or stuff like that, right? But as far as when you get the plants, honestly, just throw them in water. Throw them in water overnight and do nothing with them. Let them hydrate, because the first 24 to 48 hours is most crucial for a plant. If it's going to survive, it's going to survive. If not, it's not going to go. Just put them in water so that they can rehydrate, because trust me, if a plant is limp, do not pot that plant up, because it's going to die. You know what I mean? It's not going to survive. So the more stressed the plant, you just have to be a little bit more careful. Sometimes, I would leave them in water for a week or two. It just depends on the plant specimen as well. Velvety plants are probably the worst, you guys. Like, let's be real. Velvety plants, anything that requires super high humidity, like, let's not do. You know what I mean? Like, definitely do, but like, if you can find it with roots already, like, that's the way to go, because trust me, unless you're okay with losing money, trust me. In the beginning, I was super irresponsible, and I just, I was like, all right, whatever. But, at the same time, now I'm at a point where I'm not making money off of my plants. I'm on a set income. So it's pretty much like, okay, if I want to do something like that, like, I have to make sure that I'm buying a specimen that I know will survive and not, die on me, because it sucks. It's a lot of money sometimes. We want that wish list plant, but sometimes it's a little better just to pay a little bit more for something that's already rooted, something that's already potted, in the United States, for example. You know what I mean? So unless you're actually like a reseller or somebody that actually really wants to do that kind of stuff, hey, go for it. But just know that, importing, like, I have a whole greenhouse that nobody sees, but it's full of, unhappy plants. Let's say that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it is a big risk.
It is a big risk. I would also add to that just to make sure that the company does offer a phytosanitary certificate when shipping your plants, because these plants are going to go through customs. And once you pay for your plants, you're probably not going to get that money back if something happens to them.
Yeah, you're right. You know, fun fact, I actually was importing a Hoya. It was a Hoya polynera, and I was buying it in baskets. Like they were huge, like hanging baskets, and they were like $250 back then. I mean, but that was when one leaf cuttings, or the cuttings were selling for $75, right? I don't know how much they are now. But I remember I imported like 10 of those baskets, and I think 6 of them got confiscated because I didn't bring them with phytosanitary. I wasn't doing it correctly. But, I really wanted the plant, and I'm like, shoot, well, so yeah, just make sure you guys have the proper, you have the proper paperwork, because trust me, that's a big hit. I mean, it's a lot of money, you guys. Basically. And make sure that people, you're aware of where you source your plants, because I have a lot of people on my personal Instagram that have sent me a message, hey, I sell plants, but yet they're literally in the jungle, like showing you plants so that they can pull them out. You know what I mean? So,
oh my God.
Yeah, you guys. So just make sure you guys have actual reputable sellers, because there's so much tissue culture now, right? You can find people that are actually doing it like Ecuagenera, correct and ethical way, right? So
Last question we have is, what's your most cherished plant from your personal collection?
That's a little bit hard. I don't know.
Top 5?
You guys. Let's do that. I mean, I really, really love my variegated banana, because it's getting big and it's doing really well, you guys. When I first bought that, I bought that from somebody on eBay from Texas, and it was like $400, and it was a good size specimen. I had that plant in a Ziploc bag, because that's how they sent it to me, in soil. I had it there, I kid you not, for maybe 3 or 4 months in a Ziploc bag, you guys.
Wow.
Like, I just made holes in the Ziploc bag, so I had drainage holes. But I feel like it's just super awesome. I have it now planted in cocoa husk, but it's doing so well. It's actually getting big, mature, beautiful. So I'm like, that's one of my favorites.
Cool.
Another one is like, I love my sea hibiscus. I really do. It's super gorgeous. It throws out these gorgeous red leaves in the beginning, and then it just turns like, green and variegated.
I gotta
it's just
Google this
beautiful.
plant.
Yeah, variegated sea hibiscus. It just has beautiful foliage. It's like literally heart-shaped leaves. And it's just
my gosh,
pretty.
It's so pretty.
Yeah, they get massive,
wow.
and but it's one of my favorites, I'd say. I do have a mint monstera. I don't think it's one of my favorites, but it's the most expensive. It was a 1-leaf cutting, and I paid $1,400 for it.
Woo.
I think that's the reason why it's on my top 5. Just because it's so expensive,
It's a good reason.
There is a hybrid anthurium that is absolutely one of my favorites. It's Anthurium crystallinium with Anthurium luxurians. It just, gets these beautiful big leaves, a little bit sheen, blue sheen on it. It's a really pretty plant, So I there's so many plants that I truly, truly love. But my top number 1 would have to be trees. I really do love trees. I don't know why, but I like trees.
Yeah.
Yeah, we saw some trees out on the property.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's some pretty awesome stuff out there. My favorite plant from your collection.
FYI.
Yeah. I think that first of all, your like mint variegated monstera is absolutely beautiful, but I think it's a Burley Marks Flame that truly caught my eye. And in my video, I didn't realize I was filming your personal collection, so I am sorry. But
no, you're fine.
Same.
I
didn't know that.
Yeah, I got some comments. It was like, the Burley Marks Flame. I'm like, I know. Like, it's just it has like the monstera vibes, like very like split fenestrated. Like, it's just so cool. But you have a really beautiful collection. Yeah,
that one is a little bit of a fresh import. I mean, it came from Ecuador, but it took a little bit of a hit, but it has roots growing now. So actually is doing good. The new leaf that was unfurling at the time of import took a hit. So like half, like maybe like a third of it kind of like rotted off, I guess you can say. But totally fine. It's super hardy now. Like, it's super perky. Like, it's going to be great. So I'm excited for that new leaf to come out. I'll send you guys a picture for sure.
Yeah, that was my favorite. That was my absolute favorite too. I was just like, ugh. They're so pretty.
They're super expensive still, you guys. But I'm getting seedlings actually. They're coming out with some seedlings, so I'm gonna be getting those hopefully soon. Yeah, hopefully soon.
Nice.
I will be keeping an eye out for that because I really like that leaf shape.
Yeah, it's super epic. It's super different, right? Yeah, it's super cool.
Josh, where can the audience find you?
Well, I mean, the company's Instagram is Ecuagenera_Ca. I mean, I super have neglected my personal account. So I'm hoping, I actually just hired somebody, thankfully, full time in the office that can help me, a lot. So I'll be, hopefully editing videos, doing all of that stuff that I need to do, and just being more active on my personal account, which is California Aeroids. Yeah, that's a plan. I mean, I'm going to Ecuador again in June. I invited you guys, but we're gonna try to plan it, I think, for December. So that's still gonna be great trip. So who knows? Maybe we'll have the trio in Ecuador, right?
Oh my gosh, a dream.
I'm gonna say definitely yes.
Yeah. We can make something happen for sure.
So
we need to plan that.
Ecuagenera has a lot of Instagram accounts, but the one that you run is Ecuagenera_CA, right?
Correct. Okay. That's the one that I manage. Yes.
And we'll have it all linked in the description below.
Yes. But if you guys want to see some cool plants, I mean, the main Ecuagenera account, of course, they're always showing what they have new, whatever's coming out fresh, all of that new stuff, all of that info,
Yeah.
So yeah,
I love that account so much.
You guys do auctions relatively often, right? So
we do.
Do you want to say anything about that real quick?
I mean, we do auctions right now. We're doing them once a week, but we're trying to do 2 to 3 times a week. So basically, my reason for doing auctions here in California is because a lot of stuff is fresh imports, right? So we just opened in October, we're super fairly new, right? So we all know that sometimes rehabbing plants takes literally 6 months to a year, depending on the plants. And so long story short, it's a way for the customers to actually see the plants that they're going to purchase, right? It's not like, I'm going to put a picture online. It's super gorgeous, right? Because we have a lot of stock photos, of course. But it's not, I don't feel that it's right that we, do that. And then people get the plant. It's like, it has cosmetic damage or it has this, you know what I mean? But of course, it's just the nature of things. It's the nature of rehabbing, right? So that's my reason behind the the Instagram lives is so that people can actually see the product that they're going to be purchasing. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I love that. Yeah. I love that because you're right. There's so many times where I've ordered plants from online and it is a stock image or it's like the mother plant,
Exactly.
And then you get the cutting in the mail and it's like, okay, this is underwhelming.
Yeah.
No,
I totally get it. Yeah. So that's the reason behind it. I just want full transparency, I guess, with the customers so that, I totally understand. I've been in their shoes, you know what I mean? Granted, I haven't really bought any plants. The last plant that I bought was a variegated money tree. But, I understand the customer as well. So that's why I really want to do things for the customer, for their benefit. Because at the end of the day, they're the ones that fuel the business. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. All right. Well, thank you so much, Josh, for coming on today.
Yeah.
We really appreciate having you and kind of telling the backstory of everything. And I think people will be really interested to hear about it. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
We know you're busy, so we really appreciate it.
No worries. No, I appreciate you guys. This has been great and fun. It's just also another great way to, tell people that there's people out there that are truly trying to do good in this world. You know what I mean? And that's kind of the message that I want to get out, right? That there is people at the end of the day, there might be comments, there might be this, we're doing this or that or whatever. But at the end of the day, if you guys have any doubts, just come to Ecuador and we'll show you guys otherwise. You know what I mean?
Come with us in December.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll be there.
I can take up to 10 people. That's kind of what they recommended me, just so that people can kind of so that we can house everybody, right? And all that fun stuff. And, because more than that, but we're still going to have a party with 10 people. So
yeah. I could see our DMs now.
If you guys want to go to Ecuador, trust me, it will do great. Yeah.
That'll be so much fun. Oh my gosh. Okay. All right. I'm going to end it out here. So guys, if you're ever in the Ecuagenera California area, what part of California is it again, Josh?
We're in Southern California. We're about 45 minutes north of San Diego, about an hour and a half south of Los Angeles. We're kind of...
There you go.
Worth the drive. Worth
it.
Worth the drive. It's a beautiful drive.
Yeah.
It is a beautiful drive.
Yeah.
I mean, when we were driving, we saw all the mountainsides had all the poppies growing. It was beautiful this time of the year. So head on over, stop in, say hi to Josh. And then you can also follow him over on Instagram, like he said, on both of his accounts. And then you can also follow us all individually at Not Dude, Adam's account. And then we got at De La Plants, Becca. And then at My Clean Leaves, me. And then also just, be sure to check out our Patreon, our website, all the fun things. You know what it is. And we'll see you guys next week. Thanks, guys. Bye.
At Sleep Outfitters Outlet, great sleep is a big deal. Save 40 to 60% every day on every Sealy, Stearns & Foster, and Tempur-Pedic. Queens as low as $249. Customer exchanges, closeouts, and floor samples. Inventory changes daily, so come in for your dream deal today. With no credit needed financing, expert advice, and up to 60% off retail, it's never been easier to get the sleep and savings you deserve. Go to sleepoutfittersoutlet.com for financing details and to find a store near you.